Okay, so now we're going to jump into a set of scenarios. This is coming to some practical scenarios where, a community could be a force multiplier and it could give you those results that would otherwise be difficult to attain with a very structured approach to it. So the first scenario that I have put together is, let's say you have a core group in your organization, and this core group wants to establish two-way interactions with its distributed user base. So here we are consciously agreeing that the user base is very distributed. So there is no single way to reach out to each and every one of them because you don't know if the response will be the way it is expected. So you still want to engage them through some other vehicle, and the community could be one such vehicle. Now, why do you want to reach out to them? Because you have some very focused things that you want to achieve with this interaction. One, you want to continuously understand the changing preferences of this user base. Now, why do you want to understand the changing preferences? Because this user base is also the consumer of the services that you are providing as a group. So if you want to reach out to this group and you want this group to be your #1 advocate and user of your services, so the first thing is to understand what are their changing preferences. So that's one. Second is, once you understand these changing preferences, you want to influence these users. How do you want to influence them? You want to influence them with insights. And these insights would typically comprise of how some other sub-user group is benefiting from the services of this group. So you're going to use those kind of motivational and case study driven approaches to increase the uptake of the group services. And once you do that, you also want to mine what are the usage highs and lows of the user so that you can do corrective interventions. And this group can also plan how they want to take up the next set of services or enhance their existing services within the organization. So this is one scenario where a community of practice can prove to be very beneficial, and this kind of a community can continue to grow and offer very, very valid alignment with the business goals of the company. The second scenario is you have a central team which is responsible for continuous improvement. So let us say this group is, let's say it's like a quality group or it's a process group. And this is a group that wants to do continuous improvements. It is responsible for continuous improvement. And it wants to embark on a productivity improvement initiative in a specific area. Okay, so to do that, one of the first things it wants to do is it already has data-driven insights. So this group is privy to a lot of organizational data about what is the current state and other things. But it wants to size up the current state in the ground with the actual user feedback. So it wants to supplement its analysis. And for this, it needs a larger group of user base with whom it can interact. So this central team definitely can leverage a community of practice, do the first set of sizing up whether the distributed workforce is able to leverage this process improvement initiative idea, or whether they are buying into the productivity improvement initiative that this team wants to embark upon. That sizing up can be done using a community of practice by the central team. Now, having done that, it also wants volunteers who will double up as advocates, because any change needs change advocates. So it can reach out to that larger, enthusiasts who are subscribers of the community, take the experts and the practitioners from that community and use them and ask them to double up as advocates, so that a lot of these productivity improvement experiments that they want to conduct can be sourced. So they can crowdsource it to these change champions or to these change advocates. Now, having done that, it can use all the insight it gets from the sizing, from the productivity experiments that are conducted, and also from the feedback from this distributed workforce of volunteers or community subscribers to draw out a realistic and a realizable roadmap. Right? So this is a second scenario. Now, it would be impossible for just one project team or a small team to do this without the support, without the practical insights of a larger audience of users, of consumers. So this is one scenario where a community can play a very, very powerful role. The third scenario is, let us say we have created a new role in the organization. This role hasn't been in the organization so far. The organization service portfolio itself has changed, or it has expanded, diversified. It could be any of those triggers. And these kind of changes has necessitated for the creation of a new role by the HR organization, the HR team in the organization. Now, it's very important to understand the dynamics of this role for whoever is going to get into the role. One, that the role is very critical for business. So for this role to perform, it is crucial because it's a business do or die. So let's say it's as critical as that for business. The responsibilities that come with this role are complex. Okay, so it's not an easy set of do 20 tasks and this is what your role is expected to do. So it's not on the lower order of the role, but it's in the higher order of the role responsibilities. The responsibilities are complex. Now the third is the influx is very high. So which means that there are going to be a lot of new people or people who will be new to the role. So these people could be existing people from an organization, or they could be new people, not only new to the organization but also new to the role, or they could be new to the organization but may have performed the role earlier. So you could have all these permutations and combinations. But net, the influx into the role is very high, right? So that's the third attribute for this scenario. So in these three combinations, what stands out as a big challenge is that yes, we can always put together a learning module, a learning curriculum, and say this is the content, please go through this, get yourself certified, and then you're ready to do the role. But then the finer nuances that are there, the practical aspects of executing the role, because you remember the first point I said is it's a complex role, which means the role may involve a complex interplay of multidisciplines. One of the things that we saw in the earlier slide is where you have an interplay of multiple disciplines. So in this kind of a role, the key differentiator would be an immersive learning. Immersive learning so that there's role playing, so that there are practitioners from the ground who, one or two or few of them who already executed the role, who can say what are the challenges in reality when you get into playing this role, and what are some of the risks that you can anticipate so you can mitigate it, or you can be proactively prepared for it. So all these aspects. Now this comes when you have the community which is role-based. This is community of R. So role-based communities help in addressing this kind of a scenario. Now when this kind of a community gets formed, one of the big advantages is that you create a cohort of practitioners who are continuously interacting with practical insights, with practical challenges, and thereby adding more and more value to the way that particular role itself is executed. The fourth scenario, I'm on the scenario 4, where it's a typical scenario where you have a learning department, and the learning department has introduced a new e-learning certification course. So the certification course does have theory, it has blended learning, and the theory needs to be explained with practical applications on the ground. And the learning needs to continue beyond certification. So it's not enough if someone gets certified and gets back working. So to hit the ground, ground running very effectively, the person who gets certified, the newly certified person, also needs supplemental insight from SMEs, from real-time cases and case studies, from whiteboarding and other kind of output that comes from practitioners who are playing the role, who are already certified. So these kind of inputs need to come. Over and above all this, the learning department will also look for continuous inputs from this whole cohort. So the group of people who are getting certified periodically and coming out of the department with this certification and applying the learnings in real-time scenario. So that application in turn will tell the learning department what are the gaps in what was taught as e-learning and what has been applied, so that those gaps can be addressed and make the course continuously relevant. Otherwise the course has the risk of getting outdated. So this is another scenario communities play a very vital role. They can play a very significant role in augmenting the learning content and the learning methodologies that are put together by structures. Okay, so I'm on scenario number 5, which is, so far we were talking about central teams, distributed teams, we're talking about organizational groups, HR, role-based, so we're talking about that. Now I'm coming to a scenario which could be closer home, which could even be just a project team, a large distributed virtual project team, where the project team has members working across multiple geos or even within the same geo across multiple facilities, multiple locations. So while the project team may be executing its tasks very, very efficiently in terms of having a work-based task breakdown, allocation, there are automation systems, there are processes in place, the processes are digitized, so all that is fine. But then the manager of the team feels that one key element that is missing amongst team members is the team stickiness or the team bonding, because the team never has an opportunity to interact, to go for a coffee together, or even to chat over lunch, to have informal breakout sessions. So there's no opportunity because it's a distributed team. So they could use the tenets of the community to get interactions happening, to increase team stickiness, and also get good practices to be exchanged between the team members, and use this entire stickiness to seed fresh ideas. Fresh ideas either for continuous improvement of processes, or better reporting techniques, or better learning, discovering new experts. So there could be a whole lot of things that could spawn off because of the increased team stickiness. So a virtual project team also can be approached like a community, and the tenets of the community can be used with the managers, managers support and managers advocacy. So it could be run as a community as well. Right. So these are the 5 scenarios that I put together so that you can look at practically where can communities help. These are just few scenarios. So we have several such scenarios which we can look at. You can extrapolate and look at several other scenarios in your context of work or in your organization. Right. So having said that, we're going to take a pause now, and I'm going to have my next poll put up for you to to share your opinion.